The end of Earth began without warning. No diplomat's last-minute call, no rumble of engines detected by deep space scanners. The Zarkath arrived the way predators always do, silent, sudden, and merciless. The first warship broke through, the atmosphere over the Pacific like a falling star, its hull black as obsidian and laced with glowing red veins. It didn't fire a single missile. Instead, a cascade of energy, raw, sun-hot plasma, fell upon Honolulu, turning the city into a lake of molten glass in seconds. By the time the second ship appeared over New Delhi, every telescope, every radar array, every military satellite was screaming. The sky was full of them, hundreds. They moved with eerie coordination, their hulls refracting the light so that to human eyes they seemed like shadows made of steel. Civilian planes were swallowed mid-air. Power grids collapsed as their warships bled radiation. Every broadcast, every emergency channel went dark except one. A voice, low, cruel, echoing in a dozen languages. Humans, you are nothing. Your world is dust beneath my feet. I am Zithira, queen of the Zarkath dominion. Your son will be the fire of your funeral pyre. The transmission struck like a hammer. Politicians choked out reassurances from bunkers. Soldiers scrambled to their posts, but fear spread faster than orders. In orbit, Earth's combined defense fleet launched everything it had: missiles, kinetic rods, railguns. For a moment, there was hope. A Zarkath cruiser shuddered under a barrage, smoke boiling from its hull. Cheers went up in control rooms. Then the cruiser regenerated. Black metal flesh knitted itself back together, glowing brighter as if mocking the humans below. Seconds later, the same ship cut the defense fleet in half with a sweep of plasma beams. Thousands of pilots died in a single burning arc. On the ground, chaos was total. Refugees clogged highways, desperate to flee cities that were already doomed. From orbit, the Zarkath picked targets with cold precision: New York, Lagos, Beijing, São Paulo, Moscow. Each strike carved scars into Earth visible from space. Skyscrapers melted like candle wax. Forests burned so hot that rivers boiled. Away. And still the Queen's voice thundered into every radio, every shattered screen. You are insects. You crawl. You build your fragile nests, and you think yourselves mighty. Watch as your nests burn. Amid the firestorm, Commander Jack Hale lived. His ship, the Resolute, had been in high orbit when the first strikes began. A destroyer-class vessel. Battered from years of border patrol duty, she wasn't the most advanced ship in the fleet, but she had teeth, and more importantly, a captain who refused to die. Hale was no fresh recruit. He was a man with scars across his jawline, with a chest full of medals that meant nothing compared to the weight of memory. He had once dreamed of retiring quietly on Earth, raising his daughter in a world without war. That dream had burned to ash when Chicago vanished under the Zarkath's first barrage. His wife and daughter had been in the city that day. Grief should have broken him. Instead, it hardened him into iron. On the bridge of the Resolute, smoke filled the air from a glancing hit. Consoles flickered. Crew members shouted reports. Hale stood in the middle of it all like a rock in a storm. Divert power to the main. "Thrusters," he barked. "We're not dying here." A young officer stammered. "Sir, half the fleet's already gone." Earth Command is rubble," Hale snapped. "From now on, we fight our own war." The crew hesitated, then rallied. If the commander wasn't giving up, neither would they. From the forward viewport, the truth was undeniable. The sky above Earth wasn't blue anymore. It was a battlefield of burning wreckage, alien warships carving through human defenses like wolves through sheep. Whole constellations of satellites were shattering into debris. The moon itself burned as the Zarkath struck its colonies, white plumes rising where once there had been cities. Hale clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms. Rage steadied him, focused him. "Get us into the asteroid belt," he ordered. "We'll lose them in the rocks, and when they think humanity's finished, we'll show them what we're made of." No one cheered. The crew was too busy holding back tears, patching holes and rerouting dying systems. But a spark had been lit. For the first time since the invasion began, someone wasn't thinking about running. Someone was thinking about fighting back. As the Resolute limped away from Earth's burning orbit, Hale glanced once more at the blue planet below. Half of it was already in flames. But the other half still lived, and as long as it lived, he swore so would the fight. Far above the burning Earth, on the throne deck of the Devourer, Queen Zythera stood like a living monument of conquest. 8 feet tall, armored in black carapace that shimmered with shifting patterns. She was more than a ruler. She was a force of nature. Her eyes, molten gold, scanned the hollow projections of Earth's cities crumbling under her fleets. Every explosion reflected in her gaze like sparks, feeding a fire. The Zarkath generals bowed around her, their serpentine spines bent low. To them, the queen was perfection incarnate, the living vessel of their dominion's will. To her, they were tools, blades to be broken against the galaxy's endless supply of prey. "Progress?" she demanded, her voice carrying the weight of a storm. One general lifted its head. "Human resistance fractures, my queen. Their militaries scatter, but they are strange." "Strange?" Zythera's tone sharpened. "They do not submit. Even when captured, they spit and scream. Even when broken, they try to rise again." The queen's lips curled into something between a smirk and a snarl. "Defiance is not strength. It is the last twitch of dying animals." The generals said nothing more, for they knew her temper. Still, Zythera remembered. In the holding cells below her throne deck, the latest batch of human prisoners had already tested her patience. She descended into the chambers that smelled of iron and fear. There, behind energy barriers, men and women in scorched uniforms stared back at her with eyes that refused to bow. One soldier had managed to scratch words into the steel floor with a bloodied fingernail. "We endure." Zythera laughed, the sound echoing like shattering glass. "You endure nothing," she declared, stepping closer. Her towering form dwarfed the prisoners. "You are short-lived vermin. Your bones snap in my grip. Your weapons sting but cannot kill. What legacy do you imagine you leave?" One man, thin from starvation but still burning with defiance, raised his head. "We'll outlast you. Maybe not me, maybe not us, but humanity will." She tilted her head, amused. "Breed with you? Carry your pathetic seed? To make my line half rot?" She spat the idea like poison. "Do not flatter yourselves. The Zarkath conquer, we do not dilute." Her laughter rolled through the chamber, cruel and thunderous. The prisoners said nothing more, but their silence was louder than her mockery. Even bruised and starved, they stared back as if daring her to try and break them. That night, Zythera stood at the grand viewport of her flagship. Earth's surface glowed red beneath her, a furnace of conquest. Yet her mind returned again and again to the faces of those humans, to the words scratched into steel. "We endure." It was absurd. She had destroyed dozens of civilizations, toppled empires older than the Zarkath dominion itself. None had resisted like this. None had fought on when all was clearly lost. Her claws drummed against the railing. "Curious," she murmured. Meanwhile, far away in the asteroid belt, Commander Hale listened to her broadcasts. Every human ship could hear them. The Queen made certain of it. Her voice was everywhere, mocking, triumphant, inescapable. But Hale did not hear despair in those words. He heard weakness, arrogance. She thinks we're beneath her, he muttered, pacing the war room aboard the Resolute. She thinks this is already over. Dr. Reyes studied the feed of the Queen's throne deck. Every intercepted image revealed details of the alien systems. Biotech woven into armor, ships that bled and healed. All of it tied to her. She's not just their leader, Reyes whispered. She's their control system, their DNA, their weapons, their command structure. It all flows from her. Hale stopped pacing. His eyes hardened. Then if we strike her, we strike everything. The crew exchanged glances. Suicide. Impossible. Insane. But Hale's conviction cut through their fear. Let her laugh, he said. Let her think we're broken. That'll be her first mistake. Back on the Devourer, Zathira's generals argued over strategy. Whether to glass Earth entirely or keep its resources. She silenced them with a wave of her hand. No, she said. The humans amuse me. Let them struggle. Let them burn their last hope in the fire of my dominion. Their deaths will teach the galaxy that resistance is foolish. And with that, the Queen returned to her throne, draped in shadows and pride, never suspecting that somewhere in the darkness, a human commander was already planning to wound her, in ways she could not imagine. For now, she laughed. But her laughter would not last forever. The asteroid belt became humanity's last hiding place. Amid fields of tumbling stone and frozen dust, the Resolute limped between shadows, her hull patched with scavenged plates from wrecks. Every corridor smelled of burned metal and recycled air. The crew had stopped counting the days since Earth fell, but even in exile, humanity sharpened its claws. Commander Jack Hale sat at the head of the war room table, his jaw clenched as schematics flickered across a battered hollow screen. Dozens of raids marked in red. They'd struck supply convoys, ambushed patrol ships, even boarded outposts when desperation outweighed fear. The Resolute was no longer just a destroyer, it was a ghost, a knife slashing at the Zarkath jugular. 3. Freighters lost in a week, Lieutenant Harper reported, her voice hoarse. We hit them hard, Commander. They're tightening patrols in the outer belt. Good, Hale said. His scarred hand tapped the table. If they're chasing us, they're not burning the survivors. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what he meant. Out on Titan, Mars, scattered stations across the Kuiper Belt, pockets of humanity still lived, waiting for a miracle that hadn't come. That miracle might have just been born in the Resolute's labs. Dr. Elena Reyes stormed into the room, lab coat scorched from another near explosion. She slapped a vial onto the table. Inside, alien fluids shimmered, glowing faintly gold. This, she said, isn't fuel, metal, or code. It's blood, Zarkath blood, and it's the key to everything. The crew leaned forward, even Hale's grim mask cracked with curiosity. Reyes projected images on the holoscreen. Alien tissue, cells woven like living circuitry. Their ships, their weapons, even their armor. It's all biotech, wired directly to the Queen's genome. She isn't just their leader. She's their operating system. You mean, Harper asked carefully, if we break her, we break them. Reyes shook her head. Not break, rewrite. Her eyes gleamed with dangerous hope. We can code a virus, one that slips into their bio-network and shuts it all down at once. Fleets, soldiers, cities, dead in seconds. But the word hung heavy in the air. But what? Hale demanded. I can't finish it with scraps of blood from low-ranking drones, Reyes admitted. Their DNA loops back to her. I need the source. Her blood. Without it, we can't weave the viral key. The room erupted with disbelief. Steal the Queen's blood? From her throne aboard the most heavily guarded ship in the galaxy? Madness. Hale didn't blink. He stared at the glowing vial until its light reflected in his eyes. So we take it. The crew shifted uneasily, but none spoke against him. They had all lost families, homes, entire worlds. If the only way to fight back was through the Queen herself, then so be it. The days that followed turned the Resolute into more than a warship. It became a forge of vengeance. Engineers welded stolen Zarkath tech to human weapons. Pilots trained to thread the narrowest asteroid gaps. Soldiers drilled for boarding operations that had no return ticket. And Hale planned. He studied every intercepted transmission, every flicker of the Queen's broadcasts. He mapped the patterns of her fleet, the rhythms of her throne ship's movements. He didn't sleep, not really. His dreams were full of fire and the sound of her mocking laughter. One evening, Harper caught him alone on the bridge, staring at Earth's distant scarred sphere. "Sir," she said softly, "if this fails—" "It won't," he cut in. His voice carried the weight of iron. "I won't let it." But inside, even Hale knew the odds. Storming the Devourer was suicide. Still, better to die striking at the heart than to fade in the shadows. On the other side of the stars, Queen Zythera's throne room echoed with celebration. Another world had fallen, another people bent to her dominion. Her generals knelt, offering trophies of conquest. But deep in the shadows of the asteroid belt, humanity was sharpening the blade that would cut deeper than any fleet ever had. For the first time in her long reign, Zythera's enemies weren't preparing to kneel. They were preparing to steal her blood. The Resolute was a knife cutting through the dark. Cloaked in stolen Zarkath codes, she threaded the gaps between patrols, slipping closer to the heart of the Dominion. Every crew member knew this was a one-way run. Nobody said it, but the silence on the ship carried the weight of unspoken goodbyes. Hale stood in the armory as his strike team suited up. Their armor was patched with alien plating, their rifles modified with hybrid munitions. Each soldier checked their weapon with grim care. No one joked. No one prayed. "Listen up," Hale said, his voice calm and sharp. "We're ghosts. In, out, no wasted shots. Our target isn't the Queen herself. It's her blood. Reyes needs it or humanity's done. So we grab it and run. Simple." They all knew it wasn't simple. But they nodded anyway. The Resolute dropped out of stealth near the Devourer. The alien flagship was a Leviathan, its hull black and pulsing with crimson veins as if the ship itself was alive and breathing. Compared to it, the Resolute looked like a knife blade facing down a mountain. "Boarding pods, launch!" Hale ordered. The pods fired like bullets, punching through the Devourer's outer plating. Hale's team spilled into corridors that felt more like veins than hallways, walls pulsing faintly with living tissue. Alien guards surged to meet them, towering Zarkath warriors with jagged armor fused into their bodies. The first firefight was brutal. Human rifles cracked, spitting tungsten rounds that tore through chitin and muscle. Plasma blades hissed as Zarkath closed the distance. Harper's squad cut them down with grenades, the explosions lighting the corridors in sickly green fire. "Move!" Hale barked. They sprinted deeper, every step shaking with the pulse of the ship's living systems. They fought through resistance after resistance, bleeding for every meter. Reyes, patched into their comms from the Resolute, guided them with stolen schematics. "Left passage, 2 junctions down. The Queen's chamber is beyond." By the time they reached the throne doors, half the strike team was dead. Hale's armor was cracked, his rifle scorched, but his grip didn't falter. He planted the breaching charge, slammed the trigger, and the doors exploded inward. The throne room was a cathedral of shadow and fire. Pillars of black stone curved like ribs around a vast chamber. At its heart stood Queen Zythera. She rose from her throne like a storm-given flesh, her golden eyes burning, her armor etched with runes that pulsed in rhythm with the ship itself. She towered above them, every movement radiating power. "Humans," she snarled, her voice shaking the chamber. "You dare bleed your filth into my halls?" Hale stepped forward, rifle raised. Not just bleed, fight! The queen moved faster than anything her size should. One swipe of her claw tore a soldier in half. Plasma fire scorched the chamber. As the strike team unloaded everything they had, rounds sparked against her armor, some biting through to draw streaks of molten blood. But she kept coming. Hale dove, rolled, fired a grenade that exploded against her chest. She staggered but didn't fall. "You cannot kill me!" Zithera roared, slamming Hale into the floor with bone-crushing force. Her claw pinned him by the throat. "You are fragile. A fleeting breath. Your line ends here." Hale's vision blurred. The weight of her strength was unbearable. But his hand slipped to his belt, hidden blade, carbon-edged, coated in human spite. With a roar, he drove it into her side. Golden blood burst across his arm. The queen screamed, a sound so raw it shook the walls. For the first time in her reign, she bled at the hands of prey. Hale ripped the blade free, stumbling back, clutching the vial injector Reyes had given him. With shaking hands, he filled it as her blood dripped into the container. "Mission complete. Fall back!" he shouted, voice raw. The survivors grabbed him and ran, firing wildly to cover their retreat. Zithera's bellow followed them, a sound of pure fury. "You dare!" she thundered, staggering but not falling. Her claws shredded the floor as she swore. "I will tear the stars apart to find you!" The boarding pods ripped free, blasting, back toward the Resolute. Behind them, the Devourer shook with the Queen's rage. In the quiet of the returning pod, Hale stared at the vial of glowing blood in his hands. It burned like fire even through the glass. For the first time in years, a thin, grim smile touched his face. "Now," he whispered, "we have a chance." The Resolute limped back into the asteroid belt, scarred from the suicide raid. Hull plating still smoked. Entire sections of the ship were sealed off, and half the crew never returned. Yet in the medbay, Reyes held the prize of their sacrifice. A vial glowing with liquid gold, Queen Zithera's blood. The lab became the beating heart of the rebellion. Reyes and her exhausted techs worked day and night, equipment humming with stolen alien power. She barely ate, barely slept. The blood sample pulsed like it had a heartbeat of its own, resisting every probe, every scan. It was alive in a way. Human DNA had never been. But human determination was stubborn. Reyes cracked through. Slowly, the patterns revealed themselves, spirals of code embedded in living cells, a lattice of control threads. It wasn't just blood. It was a crown, a key, a throne. Whoever carried it could command every Zarkath system in existence. "We can make it work," she told Hale, eyes burning with feverish excitement. "We can weave a virus into her genetic core. If we get the signal out, their entire empire will collapse." Hale listened, but his mind was elsewhere. His arm throbbed with pain, the same arm that had been drenched in her blood. The medics had scrubbed it raw, sterilized it, burned away the residue. But the ache hadn't stopped. It spread, a fire crawling beneath his skin. He didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Days passed. The ache turned to fever. Nights became visions. Hale would wake gasping, drenched in sweat, hearing a voice that wasn't his own. "Weak creature. You cut me. You made me bleed. I feel you now. Inside me." He'd stumbled to the mirror, gripping the sink until the metal bent under his hands. His reflection stared back with eyes slightly brighter, faint flecks of gold at the edges. The Queen's blood wasn't gone. It was merging. Reyes noticed first. She caught him in the lab one night staring at the glowing vial like it was speaking to him. "Jack," she whispered, horror in her voice. "It's inside you, isn't it?" He didn't answer, but the silence was enough. She scanned him, her instruments confirming what he already knew. His DNA was mutating, strands twisting, reshaping, human code spliced with Zarkath. "You're becoming..." She stopped, unable to finish. "Something else," Hale said. His voice was steady, though a tremor of fear ran beneath it. "But if it keeps me alive long enough to end her, I'll take it." Reyes argued, begged him to quarantine, but Hale refused. The crew needed their commander. The rebellion needed a weapon. And if that weapon was half monster, so be it. Far away, aboard the Devourer, Queen Zithara felt it too. She had healed her wound, her flesh knitting back together, but something gnawed at her from within. A sickness, a fire. Her generals whispered outside her chambers, fearful of her screams that rattled the walls. Alone, she clutched her abdomen, fury boiling as realization struck. "No," she hissed. "Impossible." But there was no denying it. The human strike had left more than a scar. Her body carried a seed not of her choosing. Something new was growing inside her, half Zarkath, half human. Her perfect bloodline was corrupted, rewritten. Zithara's rage was volcanic. She tore through her chambers, crushing stone pillars with her bare hands. "I will rip his species from existence," she howled. Yet beneath the rage was something far more dangerous: fear. Back in the asteroid belt, Hale stood on the bridge, pale from fever, but unbroken. Every nerve in his body burned, yet his hands were steady on the console. Through the static of enemy transmissions, he could feel her. The Queen. Every heartbeat of hers thundered in his skull. Every scream she unleashed echoed in his bones. They were linked now. Predator and prey bound by blood neither wanted. Harper approached cautiously. "Sir, the crew's ready. We can broadcast the virus as soon as Reyes finishes the code, but if you—" "I'll make it," Hale cut her off, though sweat dripped from his brow. "We didn't come this far to stop." He clenched the railing, veins glowing faintly gold beneath his skin. He could feel her fury across the stars like two storms colliding. This war was no longer just humanity versus the Dominion. It was Hale versus the Queen, and only one of them would endure. Titan's orbit burned with war, the last fleet of humanity, barely. 30 ships, patched together from wrecks and scavenged tech, faced a storm of over 300 Zarkath warships. The Dominion had come to crush the final ember of resistance once and for all. Saturn's rings glowed with fire as ships tore each other apart, debris scattering like sparks across the void. From the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Jack Hale leaned against the console, pale but unshaken. His veins glowed faintly beneath. His skin, the golden fire of the Queen's blood twisting through him. Every breath was a battle, but his voice carried iron. "Broadcast array online?" he demanded. Dr. Reyes, trembling but determined, nodded. "Virus is loaded. Once we push, the signal it will ride on every frequency, every channel. If it works, the Dominion dies in one heartbeat." "And if it doesn't?" Harper asked quietly. Hale didn't answer. He only stared at the tactical screen, red dots choking the display, human vessels flickering out one by one. Failure wasn't an option. Across the battlefield, aboard the Devourer, Queen Zithara sat on her throne, her claws gripping the armrests hard enough to crack them. The fire inside her grew by the hour. She could feel the hybrid child twisting in her, blood rewriting her body from the inside. She hated it. She feared it. And yet, when her gaze swept the battlefield, her fury locked on one vessel, the Resolute. She could feel Hale's presence burning like a coal inside her mind. They were bound now, and every beat of his heart echoed in hers. "This ends with him," she whispered. The battle raged. Human ships fought like wolves cornered, slashing at larger prey. One destroyer rammed a Zarkath cruiser, both vessels exploding in a sun-bright flash. Fighters darted through clouds of wreckage, targeting engines, tearing holes in giants. Every kill cost them dearly, but they refused to stop. Hale's hand hovered over the activation switch for the virus. His vision blurred, gold fire swimming. across his eyes. He could feel her clawing at his mind, her voice invading his skull. Weak human. You think your disease can touch me? You will die screaming. He bared his teeth. Maybe, but I'll take you with me. He slammed the switch. The virus unleashed itself in a storm of light, spreading across frequencies faster than thought. Every Zarkath ship shuddered as its systems hiccuped. Biotech armor convulsed, engines coughed. For a heartbeat, silence fell over the Dominion's fleet. Then chaos. Cruisers froze in place, their veins dimming. Soldiers in boarding pods collapsed mid-charge, their bodies spasming as control threads unraveled. Across the battlefield, the Dominion's empire cracked, apart like glass. On the Devourer, alarms shrieked. Queen Scythera staggered to her feet, clutching her abdomen. The virus burned through her dominion, but she was the source. Her body convulsed as her blood fought to resist the rewrite. She roared, her scream carried across every channel, shaking every surviving human to the bone. No! I am eternal! Hale collapsed to one knee, clutching his chest. The link between them seared him alive. He could feel her agony as if it were his own. Her empire was dying, and so was he. Jack! Reyes cried, reaching for him. He pushed her away with the last of his strength. His eyes blazed gold, his voice a ragged whisper. Tell her, humanity doesn't break. We endure. With that, he sent the final surge of the virus directly into her. Zithera screamed one last time as golden fire ripped through her veins. Her throne cracked, her ship trembled, her empire burned. And inside her womb, the hybrid child stirred, its presence overwhelming her final defenses. She fell to her knees, her claws gouging stone as her dominion collapsed into silence. Thus, battlefield went quiet. One by one, Zarkath ships drifted powerless, their lights extinguished. Humanity's broken fleet floated amid wreckage, bloodied but alive. On the Resolute, alarms faded. Reyes clutched Hale's body, but his chest no longer rose. His sacrifice had carried the signal. The Dominion was dead, but so was he. In the distance, the Devourer shuddered and fell dark. Inside its shattered halls, the alien queen knelt in silence, her golden eyes dim. Yet deep within her, the unborn hybrid pulsed with life. Neither wholly, human nor wholly Zarkath, it carried the legacy of both, a future written in blood and fire. For humanity, survival had come at the highest price, but survival was enough. And as the surviving fleet limped away from Titan, battered but victorious, one truth blazed across the ashes of war. Humanity had endured. Humanity had changed the enemy forever.